Well, I realized after I showed you guys that other video about wrapping the deal, I never showed you, I just said there's a tool and I showed you how to, there's a way you can use a tool instead of having a special tool. So let me go into just a real quick, more in-depth deal on that. So this is the tool that my friend loaned me. And if you look at it, what happens is when you get this thing wrapped around here, and of course, like I said, in our case, because of the diameter of the pipe, we're having to use 2, you would take the, and I hope you can focus on that, but there's a slit in the end of this right here, and you would feed it into the slit like that, and then on the side of here, there's a cavity or a hole where you'd put in your little device and put it inside here like that, and then what you're going to do is just take that piece here that's sticking up, you're going to feed it in, and you're going to feed it into that slit and on through it like that. You see it's in that slit now. So if I turn this, it's going to start to bend it. And so what happens is when you, like in this case, it'd be in this one rather, it's going to come up here and butt up against, let me get this thing focused if I can. It's going to come up, let's see here, get it through our slit. Get this out of here. It's going to butt up against this right here. And so when it does that, and you start to twist this, this part stops this from feeding in and allows this to be pulled through. And as you turn it, it cranks it tight like a zip tie. Now, what I was talking about, in lieu of having this tool, you could take like a short bit that you got a few extras of, and you could take like a Dremel tool and cut a slit in here like that. And then it's a matter of using like a, and of course this is a 1/4 inch ratchet, but you take your ratchet and you turn it. You basically hold it with your hand and you turn it and you crank it around here, and that would pull it tight. So that's what I was talking about basically. I'll show you here what I'm talking about. Okay, so now that I got this thing wrapped around here, I'm going to go ahead and feed this in. Okay, insert my little bit here on the side. And then you can see the slit when I rotate it up this way. I'm going to rotate it forward so that when I feed this in here, that little, and you got to work it, you got to move it up and down to get it inside there. It's kind of in an awkward location, but you'll ultimately get it stabbed in there. There we are. You can see it sticking out right there. Now, you can plan it better so that you have more sticking through, but this is enough to grab it. And at this point, for this particular tool, I'm going to take this and I'll use it as a tightening. See how I'm starting to curl it over that barrel? And as you do that, it's going to pull that tight. And then you just yank it off. And I've been doing both sides because sometimes, like on that one, I didn't have very much to play with. So on this side, when I stick it in, I should have more, and that'll allow me to put more rounds on it. So we stick it in there, we work it in, takes a minute. And that's why I was saying, if you do have an extra socket that you don't want or you can spare, it's kind of, a socket rather, an extension. Yeah, it's in there. Okay, so again, you can see a lot sticking out right here. Try to move a little bit so you can see it. And as I turn this, see it brings it up. See it hanging up there? And you just hold it, and this will wound it in. And as it does it, this part is keeping this from feeding in, so it tightens it. And you don't have to go too much because these will only handle so much stress and load. So just enough to kind of tighten up the whole thing. And then when you're done, you basically just kind of pull it out of there like that. And this is ready. And like I said before, in case it wasn't clear, I take some tin snips, cut off about a half, leave a little less than an inch here. Then I take some needle nose pliers, grab the end, and I roll it in under itself, curl it up, let these out, and bang, bang. That's it. Right? All right, so now that we've got it all wrapped up, I've went ahead and put that spray coating on here. I liken it to like a high temp paint is what it is. And you basically, as long as it's, I think, between 60, 70 degrees up to 90 degrees day, and then you just do a few light coats, better than a single heavy coat is what they say. Yeah. The other stuff, when you grabbed it, obviously was really soft. And now it's like you can feel like the hardened paint on there and stuff, but I think it seals it good enough. So, but anyway, that's it. I'm gonna get it mounted back up. So I just got back from I'm gonna say that's the real first test drive that I've done on it, because I did take it out to my old shop to get it inspected, and then I went to get it registered, and I took it easy. On the way over there, I kept bottoming out the suspension in the back, and of course I'd smell that rubber smell, and that's obviously because the weight in the back is bearing down more, so every time I'd hit a bump it'd scrape. So I put them up both in the front and back. I took the backs up to 3/4. That was the end of their travel, and the fronts I took up 1/2 inch. Never had a problem up front, but I found usually in the past when I was trying to defeat front wheel spin, I would try to load up the back by raising it up higher. Not a lot, but just enough to keep the weight transfer down. And it would end up, when you'd go to make a turn, it would end up scraping on the front. So I'll raise the front up just to make sure I have that problem. And this time I didn't have a problem with it bottoming out, except in extreme cases, but it's always done that. But the good news is I don't have to worry about it, because during this test drive I found that I am going to need to run the smaller tires. So what I found out with this is the boost starts coming on right around $3,000. And I hit full boost probably around, and I say full boost, it's 10 pounds right now. I hit 10 pounds right around 4,200. And at that point, when that boost comes on, of course, I have the Phantom Grip LSD in here. It's like the street spring on it. And so this should be limited, and it'd probably be worse if I didn't have it in there, but the steering wheel is fighting back and forth a little bit. So I saw I was running on AFRs at max RPM, max boost. The AFR was, the first time I ran it, it was like 13. And so I pulled over, made the adjustment, and on the Veggie, there's the rate of gain screw on there. And they say when you first start testing, go ahead and turn it all the way in. That way you can have the max amount of max amount of fuel pressure available, and then you can cut it back as you need to. So I figured with this system here, I just put it halfway in, went back out. It got down to like 12 something. I messed around one more time, gave a couple more turns. It got down to like 11.3 or 5, 11.7. But I talked to Squire, Mr. Squire that did the STS turbo kits, and asked him, the way I've got this wideband in here, it's in between the engine and the turbo. Some people put it after the turbo. In these cars with the rear mount, sometimes that's not very much piping. And we talked about reversion sometimes, and I didn't want reversion coming back in and showing me to run leaner than what I really was. Probably wasn't for anything. I probably could have put it back there. I've got enough pipe, I believe, that it would read correctly. But I had already had the bung on the header pipe installed and all this other stuff. So So I'm using that as a point of reference. So I asked him, and this is a point that you need to keep in mind too if you're going to run rear mount and put the AFR or wideband sensor on the system, where you're going to put it. The AFRs are going to be about 0.5 leaner than what the gauge shows. So if your gauge is showing 15, it's 15.5. If it's showing 12, it's actually 12.5. So for me, when I had this system running before with the T25 turbo, it felt really good at like 10.5. And of course, it's a crude, that's the crude tune. If I was able to go in with a computer and mess with stuff, we could get it closer and see, you know, are we riding right on the fringe of issues, or we still got room to go? I do know that it goes, I think below 9. At 9 and below it, it'll display the letters RCH. So when I first get on it, there's RCH, and then it'll, which if you think about it, at that point, it's probably at least 9.5, something like that. That is rich, but tuning the mid-range and stuff like that with this type setup isn't going to happen. It's got to be at full load, full RPM. The good thing is that the late spooling turbo gives the throttle position sensor, and it's a 96 car, so OBD2, so it's a little faster on the response time and stuff like that, but still, it's good to know that that delay is there so that the computer sees it 100% throttle, can dump the injectors and stuff like that, and start looking at the appropriate sensors. Because, you know, I had my little 3 PSI blow up story. So for this system here, I'm probably pushing for it to show 10 on the AFR gauge, and that'll put me about 10.5, and that's where I left it when I got done messing with it. It's like 98 degrees here in Texas. It's hot and humid. I went to get the AC charged when I went to get it inspected, and everything's new on this except the evaporator core. I've got a new condenser, everything except the evaporator core. And he went to charge it, and the darn low side hose was leaking right at the flange. So we thought it was an O-ring, took the O-ring out. Wasn't. I had 2 of these hoses upstairs in my Saturn parts bin. So I swapped it out. So I got to get back out there and have him charge it. Then I should have AC. But it's hot here. The intake temperatures, the whole time I was out driving it, dogging it out, they only got around 130. And if ambient's 98 and you're looking, what, 30, 35 degrees higher than ambient. So your goal obviously is to get as close to ambient. You can't get better than ambient unless you're running nitrous or some kind of methanol or water, some type of injection on it. So 30 degrees over ambient's pretty good. Watched my timing. My timing was right at 18, 19 at full load, full throttle. I think, and I wanted to say before when I had the T25, I could have swore it would stay at 14 to 16. I'm not sure. I don't remember. But, so I didn't hear any detonation. I didn't hear anything like that. But the cool thing is, and the reason I know about the wheels and tires is because it gets up to 3,300 on the car slower. Because you have added back pressure to the system by putting the turbo back there. So you are going to have some power loss down low. So how do you compensate for that? Well, I could run a nitrous system to get it to spool up faster and all that, but I'm not going to run nitrous on this. I may later. I can once I have the unit chip installed. I can go ahead, and the mapping for that is crazy. I mean, you can do it. But I'm going to go ahead, because I want wider tires, wider rims and tires. It works out perfectly to what I need for the setup, for it to spin up faster. And so the overall diameter of the wheel and tire combination will be smaller, which means it'll rev quicker. So it'll get up, I'll get up higher to that 3,300 faster. So that's definitely and remember, that was what this whole thing was for. It was to get it set up to the point where I could drive it enough to where I could determine if the boost came on. Now, if this boost didn't come on to 4,300 and I redline at 6,500, then yeah, I got to go a smaller turbo, but it spools up fine. It feels great. Takes it up to redline. I did find 2 leaks. I think I told you guys that on the, and actually when if you remember last time I said I took it out and I clicked the Grim Speed boost controller, was it 8 clicks or 16 clicks? I forget. Anyway, I went up on the boost because I saw that I was having like a 6-pound or 4-pound pressure drop. Well, just on the safe side, because I didn't want to boost to 15 or whatever it was, I went ahead and took those clicks off before I went out today. And guess what? It's boosting to 10 pounds now. So those leaks were contributing to that pressure loss. So I'm glad I wasn't lazy, and I'm glad I checked it. I encourage you guys to do that too, especially on a system where you've got a lot of pipes, a lot of couplers, and a lot of clamps, like a rear mount system. So you want to make sure you check all that. So still unemployed, obviously. Talked to my boss again. He is definitely bringing me back. It's just the business isn't there yet to do it. So thank goodness we got the little bit of help on unemployment and stuff like that. So, but obviously because of that situation, all the parts that I had sitting here prior, or parts I had on order waiting to come in and were delayed due to the COVID before this all got bad, all that stuff came in. I got it all put on. The only extras I bought during that time was the 2 amplifiers for inside, because I was just stuck. I was on I got to get that finished first before I move on to something else, because my concentration just isn't there. I'll come back to it 3 months later and forget where I was at. So yeah, so next up is wheels and tires. But at that point, I'm going to be ready to, with a smaller overall diameter of wheel and tire, I can drop this thing down lower than where it's at now, and without having the tire drop issue onto the tire. So all that'll be handled, and then I'm gonna start fitting this lip kit, get it not permanently put on, but permanently fitted. Then I'll take it back off to go paint it and bring them the individual parts and have them paint it separately as well. Top is going to be painted black. At one time, Saturn made some limited edition cars that came in yellow, red, and I think white. The car was single color except the top. They were all like gloss black. And so I'm going to kind of mimic that look, but I'm going to keep the carbon fiber hood. This is a Fiber Images carbon fiber hood. It just needs to be sanded and cleared. I think I'm going to try to knock that out myself. I've got a spray gun. So, but anyway, that's pretty much it. So next up, I got to go tomorrow. I'm going to go have him finish welding those tips on. Those tips are in a location ready for they look funny as you're driving around with them now. They look like somebody didn't know what they were doing, but obviously not everybody knows I'm putting a lip kit on it, and that's where they have to be for the lip kit to fit right. In my mind, the engine is done. I was kind of reticent to really get on this thing out there, because the clutch, everything in it's brand new. The engine's new. I believe in break-in time and stuff like that, but because of the situation I'm in, and if I had to go with a smaller turbo, I would rather know now than drive at 500 miles and then find out then. I'd rather know now. The one thing I am going to have to do is, when this guy put this exhaust on here, when he welded the pipe together, it put a bind on the, call it the inlet to the turbine housing portion of the turbo, and it brings it down. And as it brings down, it sits maybe like, it's got to be sitting like maybe that much on the cross member back here, and you can really feel the resonance through the car. I ain't gonna have that. So I'll get up under there and get creative with a pry bar or a sanding or grinding disc or something, but it'll be made right. But the good news is I don't have to go with a smaller turbo. It looks like this is what I wanted as far as delay of power and how it comes on and stuff. I just need to get up there and get at it faster. So the power band is where I want it, but getting there leaves something to be desired. So that's where the wheels and tires are going to come in. So anyway, just a quick update. I am going to take it out here maybe once this storm makes sure to miss us 100%. I'm going to take it out because I don't want to get caught out in the rain in this thing. Can you imagine? It's like a sauna. It's already hot. So I'm going to take it out. I'll have my little GoPro strapped up. I'll show you guys how boost comes on and how slow it is and all that stuff. I'll show you the air-fuel ratio readings. But remember, 0.5 leaner than what it's really showing on your air-fuel ratio gauge. So 12 will actually be, on your gauge, will actually be a 12.5 in real world. So make sure you compensate for that if you do this. We talked about me moving the boost controller to the top front of the engine. Don't need to. It's responding perfectly and fine. I mean, It's so linear how the boost comes on. It comes on so smooth. I like it a lot. And once I get all this done, probably when I get the turbo settled up with the sitting on the frame, the pipes done, and all that stuff, I'll sit down. I'll go through I'll make a run in the car with the GoPro on, and just, you know, I guess I can handle it now. Would I do this again? If I was younger, I would. If I had more time in my life, I would. I've got 2 kids, obviously a full-time job. My ability to dedicate entire weekends to these things, and sometimes nights and stuff, I'm just not the kind of guy that's going to come out here and spend every single waking hour on a project. If I had, I'd been done a lot earlier. Let's see if I'm lightning fast here. See if I can get Mr. Fly. Got him. Boom. So it just takes a commitment in time, my back, my knees, my hips. I mean, some days I can come out here like a 25-year-old and run around here, and other days, I don't know. It's, like I said, when I got this one done, I'm going to make this one nice, the paint. I'll get the interior leathered, and then after that, the last one I'm doing is this red car here. I'm going to do the swap. I've decided. I was looking for parts the other day. I wanted to, when I get the unit chip in here, I want to be able to remove the rev limiter and rev higher. Not a lot, just a little bit. This ain't a Honda engine, but you know, maybe 7,500. And I have dual springs upstairs, some retainers, but I don't have the locks, and I don't have the valves. So Faria, those are all Faria parts, by the way. Faria used to make these parts for our cars, and I don't hold anything against them. The cars, nobody is doing this stuff with Saturn, so I keep stocking them. But I'd imagine it, instead of having to go in and retool entirely and get all this stuff made again, they've already got the plans. They know how to do it. So I don't know if it's difficult or not. I'm not in manufacturing and stuff, but I've sent them an email asking them if they have these available still, or is there any way to get them, and that way we can, because I think it kind of goes against the vein to have, you got the springs, you got the retainers, but you don't have the keepers or the locks. So valves maybe we could get away with, because we're not, like I said, we're not revving to 8,000-9,000. So, but anyway, but the reason I decided on the Honda is because all that stuff, every bit of it and more, is available. It's available today, and who knows what else is coming in the future. There is just K-Sport. All these companies have just embraced the Honda in a way that, you know, you would have think a lot of this would have died down when the drag racing died out, but it's still going strong. And parts costs way cheaper than what you would have to find and pay for a Saturn component. So I can have the look of a Saturn car, but I can have a Honda power plant drivetrain, and take advantage of 700 horsepower on a open deck engine. Unbelievable. I mean, just crazy. Boost by gear, what a blessing that is. That's kind of like the whole reason I'm in this. And when communication breaks back out, I'm going to find out if unit chip has boost by gear, if there's some way you can set that up. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, it's you can't beat them, join them. I was going to try to do one last hurrah, but maybe that's going to be the unique part about it, is it's a Saturn with a Honda engine in it. So Saturn did that before, if you'll remember, with the View, the 3.5 liter. That's the only reason I bought one at the time. But anyway, that's pretty much for now. I'm going to do all that stuff I told you and update you shortly.